Most of the greatest solos of all times, from Stairway to Heaven to Hotel California, all use the pentatonic scales. But when you try to use pentatonic in jazz, it doesn't quite work the same way, and here's why. Here's how to fix it. Most people try to jazz up their pentatonics just by adding notes, but that's the wrong way. Instead, today, we're going to repurpose some of the scales you already know to sound extremely jazzy, fluently, and easily. So let's get going. Now, let me show you the big shift for the pentatonic in the jazz world. So coming back to the rock world, say Europa by Santana, or even Eruption by Van Halen, or Dire Straits' Sultans of Swings, you know the songs. If I were in the key of A, I would be performing on the A minor pentatonic. And maybe sometimes a blend of major pentatonic in there. When I'm looking into a jazz field, what I can do is immediately, big shift, start to look at the fifth up. So if the chord is D minor, in this case, like this, what I will look into is look at the scale up a fifth. So I go D, power chord A, and I can use the A minor pentatonic during a D root. It sounds tremendous because what I will have is the fifth, the seventh, the tonic, the ninth, and the 11th, right? So immediately we step out of that whole bluesy world, and instead we start to use and hear extensions. I don't want to get into the theory of this because there's a link in the description in which you can get the blog post with all the explanations, but let me just contrast the two, the regular D minor pentatonic with the A minor pentatonic, and you'll be amazed. D minor pentatonic. We've hollered this. Here is A minor. Woo! Now, this is an extremely simple yet powerful process to look at. If you're playing standards, if you're playing tunes and you're like, I don't want to do my blues scale again, just go and look up a fifth and do this exact process. You can do it on major chord, minor chord, and dominant chords pretty simply. By the way, before we move on to the fingering pattern for one jazz pattern that's amazing and that no one talks about, I want to encourage you to look at other pentatonic videos I produce for jazz guitarists, as well as 100 more videos on comping, improvisations, and standards that you can navigate to right now on the channel. And please stay tuned, subscribe, and like this video so you catch all the new releases of free lessons. Alright, so here's the #1 jazz pattern. No kidding, super easy for the pentatonic applications. Yes, there are patterns like the boxes. So this guy, you can look at your entire fretboard. Typically it's 2 notes per string, right? That's still A minor. Another one here. Those are the same boxes that we use in rock. And yes, it's important to look at patterns. Like one I really love is the 4x4, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's pretty easy to muster, but here's the way jazz players do it, and it's called the SSD. All right, SSD is the acronym. You will start with your A. Because we're still on the D minor chord, I'm thinking of an A minor pentatonic. You will skip to the next note. So start with the first one, go to the skip, do a step up and a skip down. So again, start on A, skip, step to the next note, and down again. S, down, SSD. Remember SSD. After you do that once, you do it again on the next string, and on the next string, on the next string. Let me do this all without stopping on all of the strings. You see, it's a very physical geometric pattern that's really fun to use. Check it out. Very good. You could also learn this in the other scale positions, and there's a link in the description for a blog post describing exactly how to do that and PDF downloads for free. And of course, don't neglect the descending version. You can also do the SSD approach. S, so skip, step, and up. So now instead of SSD would be SS up, SSU. And again, and again. And of course, feel free to work on those on all of your 5 positions. This is amazing stuff so far. So you know how to go up a fifth, and you know the pattern that's been used by Kurt Rosenwinkel Alan Holdsworth, even Wayne Shorter to an extent. But before we move on to the rest of the video, let's quickly pause. A word from our sponsor. The sponsor is me. So the video here, I would like to take a pause and ask you to please subscribe and like this video if you've been enjoying it, and share it with anyone you think might like it. These videos, I know from looking at the data that there's only a fraction of you guys that are subscribed, and getting subscriptions really helps me in producing more content like this and knowing what you guys like, what you enjoy, and I can keep those coming. So please hit the subscribe and the like button, and let's move on with the third tip. Now, most jazz players will typically struggle with outlining the chords at the point of chord change. Assuming we do a 2-5-1 and a key of C major, so it's going to be a D minor chord to a G of sorts, or a G like this to a C major of sorts, right? So that's your typical 2-5-1. So people will say, well, I need to run the full arpeggio on the D minor, the full arpeggio on the G7, or the full scale. I'm going to do full-on Berkeley chord scale system, do the Dorian versus this versus that. Here's a trick. You can actually employ the same pentatonic shape we've looked into 3 times up a half step. So during the D minor, you will do an A. During the G7, you will do a half step up, B flat. That's not a typo, because it's going to sound like a beautiful G altered. And you're going to do a B natural during your C chord. Yeah, again, that's not a typo. And that formula will just make sure that we are hearing the changes and the contrast between the chords. You could still use your scales, you could still use your arpeggios and any licks you have, but let me demonstrate really slowly how these 3 can be put together. And that's an amazing entry-level beginner trick on the pentatonics that helps you make changes much easier. D minor 7. B flat. Again. Your turn. Use an A minor, B flat minor, keep going, one more round. Last time. Yeah, that's Lydian. Good. For bonus points, by the way, while you're doing your D minor, you can hit a chord stab, something like a chord stab like this, but you can also just do the 3rd and 7th. So you could start with like A minor pentatonic, then a G altered, that's the 3rd and the 7th, and then B, do the C major like this. There's also another way to do the 3 chord stabs instead of these. You could do it here. And you really not need to know all of these inversions and 3rd and 7ths on all of the string set, etc. You can really just put the 3rd and the 7th on the D and B string, and you're all set with that miniature movement, and that would just be a bonus. You know, you shred on your pentatonics and get back to the chord stabs once you need more stability with that sound. 3 main takeaways for the pentatonics. Number 1, we know the classic blues rock 70s pentatonic, look up a 5th. Second thing to look at is that pattern we talked about. Super powerful. And then remember the undocumented pentatonic tricks where you look up a 5th and you just keep systematically going up on a 2-5-1. That can save your playing, and that got me beginners to sound like professional jazzers, because they develop these lines that have altered tones. Yes, of course, you could still keep learning your chords, your scales, your arpeggios, and the standards to make sense of the whole language, in which case I recommend you subscribe and like and watch this video next to get more into the improvisation side of things and how to really build an improvisational foundation. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you soon on the blog, jazzguitarlessons.net. Improve your jazz guitar playing with a real teacher. Take care. See you next time.